Hello, Alchemists. Today's question is, what is love teaching you about yourself right now? If you've already chosen your doorway, check the timestamps below. If not, I'm going to give you a closer look. Doorway number 1. Doorway number 2. And doorway number 3. Choose the doorway that speaks to you, and let's begin the great work. Hello, Alchemists, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 1. What is love teaching you about yourself right now? You chose Our Lady of Starting Over. Well, there's definitely a lot of, energy of an ending in your life. I feel the feeling of like the Tower card followed by the Star. Our Lady of Starting Over is an archetypal card about letting go of things when it's time to let them go instead of holding tight to things that no longer serve you. Your Shadow card. I think that maybe there's a good chance you were attached to a situation. It could be a relationship, could be a friendship, could be a job, could be a dream. But you're attached to something that was really hard to let go, but you might find that it was actually blocking your creativity. You probably have a lot of your creativity shoved down in your shadow because you didn't have time to love yourself because you were too busy loving other people or putting too much effort into a job or something that you always got left behind. Your creativity was always left behind. And love is trying to teach you that starting over is an opportunity for you to bring out the artist in yourself, whether that's actually art or basically whatever passions that you have. Battle of the Blues. Take steps towards positive change. Oh, yeah, there's definitely a picture here. In the past, it's been very hard to let go of these things. And it's not just because, letting go of people or situations, it's always a challenge, right? Because you're changing things, you're thinking about what could have been, you're thinking about the potential. But I worry that you're also a little concerned about if you actually have the time to start following these dreams you've always had, you're going to actually have to do it. And I mean that in the most loving, kindest way as a person who's gone through this herself. That sometimes you might hyper-focus on what's being left behind because you're really worried that you're not up for the task of what you're bringing into your future. But let me just tell you, you are. Don't be held back by this feeling. Accept it. It's okay to accept the sadness. You need to accept the sadness so that you can move through it, understand it, and let it go. But on the other side of that sadness, you can transmute it into your own creativity as you start over. And when you start over, you're starting over from your space of love, your space of protection, your space of dreams and hopes. And once you embody that, you can't go backwards. And that's also a really scary thing to understand. The Hierophant. Yeah, it feels like there's a battle between tradition and moving forward. And tradition doesn't necessarily mean like, a religious tradition, or it could just mean cultural expectations or the things that you're used to happening a certain way, right? The kind of things that are just built into our shadows. Like, oh, you're not supposed to dress a certain way or do a certain thing. Those are all traditions. Well, letting go of toxic relationships is considered honestly kind of strange and crazy to a lot of people who are very traditional. You're supposed to fight for, certain things or certain people no matter what. I mean, they could literally be emotionally hurting you and you might still be told, oh, why aren't you just making this work? Like it all falls on your back and on your responsibility. And starting over is scary too, because a lot of times if it's one of these kinds of situations, starting over means feeling like you've lost everything. You might literally like lose worldly possessions or things like that. Wheel of Fortune. But this transition, love is teaching you to love yourself. And when you are able to start doing that, believe it even if you can't feel it yet. Believe that you're worthy. Believe that your passions are going to arise out of this pain. You're going to be able to let go of that, and the wheel will turn in your favor and towards your true beliefs. The Fool. Look at all this major arcana energy. This is not a quiet little change. And that's why I feel like you're learning what you deserve now. You're learning to give yourself the peace that you deserve and to give yourself the space. You may have been involved with a person or a situation or a job where expressing yourself was mocked or expressing yourself was belittled. And I'm not even talking about, it doesn't even have to be something that happened recently. This could be a mindset ingrained in you from childhood. But you're ready for this fresh start. I mean, Our Lady's starting over and the Fool card with the Wheel of Fortune. For a lot of you, this was or is a relationship that you're trying to break free from. I feel so much compassion for you. The heaviness that I can feel between Battle of the Blues and the Three of Swords. But I know that on the other side of this, starting over, your creativity is going to bloom. And a lot of times it feels like you feel lost for a long time. But remember, when you're able to let go of this, the wheel is going to turn in your favor and you're going to have that fresh start you've been needing. Starting over. You're ready to rush through this, but let me take a look at this last card. Yeah. But you're also very cautious about it, which makes perfect sense. You want to rush into it, but you're very guarded at the same time. And in these situations, you probably go back and forth and back and forth. It wouldn't surprise me if this has to do with a romantic situation or even a friendship, if there was a push-pull dynamic, right? So maybe you're getting mixed signals. And so maybe that gives you the feeling of like 1 minute you want to stay and 1 minute you want to go. But, this can happen with jobs as well. So, there's not limited to that or anything. I feel like I want to pull another shadow card for you. I just have the feeling to expand upon this. Love is teaching you right now that it's okay. It's this card. Love is what is this? Is this an upside down card? The shadow card all the time. This thing is stalking us. Love is teaching you that you do not have to be scared to start over, that you're going to be taken care of. Your shadow is why you're flipping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's okay. It's okay. You can accept and love yourself even if you're unsure or you feel worried or frightened by the changes. Because so much of us stay in familiar territory because it's familiar, not because it's what's best for us. Because something new feels so different. And that's why a lot of times, people will stay at jobs or something that they hate because they're like, oh, well, at least it's comfortable. But then if they, are able to go and get another job more aligned with themselves, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, I wish I had done this earlier. But, as always, be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. You can only do what you can do at the time, right? Yeah. Three of Swords. I have a feeling for most of you, if you chose this pile, this has to do with the fact that love is teaching you not to depend on your source of love from another person, especially if they are hurting you and that they're giving you mixed signals or they're pulling you back and forth or you're on an emotional roller coaster or you never really know what's going on or where you stand. And whenever you try to clarify things, you become more confused. And I say this all the time. Confusion is a huge sign. My strength is greater than my struggle. Yeah. Confusion is a sign that relationship or job or whatever needs to be completely reevaluated. Because in a healthy relationship or job or whatever, you shouldn't be confused, because you guys should have the framework to talk things out and do things healthily. So yeah, I feel like love is teaching you to find the source of love through your creativity for yourself, and that will invite the right loving person. And maybe you felt diminished, but remember, you do make a difference. If you have been in a relationship if you have been in a relationship or a job that has diminished you, you need to take a step back. Think about your creativity. Think about how you would start over. And some of you might already be in the process of starting over, and some of them it might just be a little seed. But no matter what, be gentle with yourself. Don't emotionally beat yourself up. Everything will happen in due course. Keep taking care of yourself. Keep questioning the kinds of beliefs that have held you back or held you hostage in certain situations in the past. You might not feel the strength to cut the cord completely yet, but that's okay. Take the time that you need. Make the preparations you need. Sometimes you need time to face the fear so that it doesn't overwhelm you. Well, alchemists, this is what I have for you today. I send you blessings and I send you love. This is not an easy thing to deal with, but I believe in you. With these cards here, you've got it going on. You're going to get through this, and I personally feel like you're going to have divine guidance with it. I'll see you next time. Hello, alchemists, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 2. You chose Our Lady of the Ocean of Rebirth. So with this, it tells me that there are some heavy karmic patterns around you at this time. And remember, karma isn't punishment. Karma is the natural results of actions taken by you or by others, right? So if things are happening in your life, they don't just happen randomly. They happen as a result of different things, just like, turning on the stove results in a hot stove. So there's not really a blame game here when it comes to having heavy karmic things around you, because a lot of times the karmic issues we have, well, a lot of times, most of the time, a lot of it has to do with how you were raised and basically what mindset you were raised in, so that because that really builds basically the foundational work of how you see the world in a lot of ways. Now, of course, you have choice, and when you learn better, you do better. But let's explore this karmic weight a little bit more. Bless you, puppy. Let's explore this karmic weight a little bit more. And with ocean, I feel like there's a heavy feeling of emotions around this. And I feel like love is teaching you that these karmic rebirth things are not like, how to explain it? These karmic patterns, breaking them brings you to a rebirth. And breaking these karmic patterns is what will bring you to love that is whole, and not love that reflects your wounds or the karmic loop you may have been caught in. Let's check out your shadow card. Feeling trapped. Yeah. This makes me think a lot of karmic loops, because this person is literally stuck in a globe, and outside the wasteland, it's frozen, it's cold. Inside they have their safe little sanctuary. It can be really hard to face our karmic patterns and heal them, because it's so scary to think about going out there into the wilderness, out there into the cold, where you might never find the safety and warmth you feel like you have in there. But really, there's a whole world waiting for you. And a lot of times we're limited by our own limiting beliefs about what might happen, when really we're shaping our world with our perspective in so many different ways. There's external factors in our lives, but how we move through the world is mostly dependent on the internal factors. And this card is calling for an understanding that divine love is helping you through your karmic pattern. Dolphin, don't worry, be happy. It's time to let go of what's weighing you down. And like I said, I feel like this karmic loop is definitely emotion-based with all this water, right? When you think of dolphins, I think of those like Lisa Frank binders. You guys remember those? Really beautiful images of dolphins. You know, peaceful. They're in pods. Now, I know the other history of dolphins, so we're not going to go there, but they can be rough around the edges. But you're ready to rise. Love is teaching you that you don't have to be held hostage by fears that were programmed or conditioned into you when you were younger. 10 of Pentacles. Yeah, you know, your birthright is abundance. In fact, it's all of our birthrights. But for you in particular, we're talking right now, it's to break out of this karmic loop, break your snow globe, take the risk of facing yourself, facing your mirror and healing yourself so that you can get to this place of peace. So when you're able to loosen the grip of a karmic loop and let things flow more naturally, you will just find yourself laughing randomly. And so much of that weight will be lifted up. And so it's interesting to have this water as karmic being caught in a karmic loop, and this water as being don't worry, be happy, because this is through this shadow card. This is the transmutation, right? To get to that, the Magician. Look at that transmutation, 100%. Balancing within yourself, balancing the elements. This is really fascinating. 9 of Pentacles. Love is calling for you to break a karmic loop that may have to do with your independence. Maybe you feel like you're dependent on other people, or maybe more likely that there are so many other people dependent on you that you can't break this karmic loop. Like, for example, if there's a relationship that maybe isn't serving your highest good, you might feel like you can't let go of that and be independent because that person, you know, might not be able to survive without you. Because a lot of times in toxic or difficult relationships, that's how they'll paint it, right? They may say it directly, they may not, but there's always this underlying idea in those kinds of relationships. And I'm not saying this is what you're in, but for some of you, this will ring true. But in those kinds of relationships, there's this underlying feeling that the other person's making this pressure that I can't survive without you. Therefore, telling you that your independence would be punishing them, when really their lives are their responsibilities if they're an adult, right? Yeah, but letting go of this karmic loop is going to feel so painful and unfamiliar. But love is inviting you. Look at this, abundance. Love is inviting you to mourn what needs to be mourned, but remember that your cups are still full. You still have that strength. You still have that independence. And once you are able to see that, things are going to move really, really fast for you out of this karmic loop. It's basically you just need to get a foothold outside of it, and then you'll be able to see this all so clearly. It really won't be a problem for that long. You'll go back and forth in your mind, and you'll be like, oh my goodness. But what we have here is there's a little shadow here, and there's a lot of movement. It's interesting here too. And with this is why I get back and forth, right? Because 8 of Wands moves very fast. The Knight of Cups is moving kind of slowly. So one minute you might be like, okay, I'm ready to do this. The next minute you might be like, whoa. And remember, it's okay. It's perfectly fine to take this at your own pace. These things are not easy. Love wants you to break a karmic loop that keeps you tied to a certain attitude that might keep you in situations or relationships that are not in your best interest. And you can't grow past those kinds of relationships, even though you probably have already internally grown past it, but you can't move past it in the 3D until you're able to face the fear of losing this familiar behavioral pattern, if that makes sense. Let's take a look at your affirmation card. I am safe to be my true, authentic self. Yeah, and remember, if part of this karmic loop is having to repress parts of yourself to make other people comfortable, if part of this karmic loop is you keeping yourself small so that other people feel safe because they can't handle your full capacity, once again, that's not a you problem, that's a them problem. And you shouldn't make yourself smaller when you are carrying this energy. Power, independence, abundance. And a lot of times in karmic loops, this stuff is like, you're like 1 second away from this once you can let go of these patterns and start being your authentic self. And then after that, you won't need to worry about it anymore, because you will naturally feel an energy mismatch. You'll naturally feel an energy mismatch when you meet people or end up in situations that aren't going to honor your authentic self. But right now, you might be with people or in a situation that still mimics old behavior patterns that you're ready to let go of. But it's just because you met those people before your transformation. You are so filled with love. You're so loved, and you're being invited by the divine to take this next step. Please comment below if this resonated for you, alchemists, and I will see you next time. Hello, alchemists, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 3. Today's question: what is love teaching you about yourself right now? Our Lady of Quiet Blossoming is about, how do I explain this? Like when you are on a spiritual journey and you're growing, whether that's spiritually or psychologically, whatever it is, emotionally, there are times where it looks like you're not making any movement. And during those times, you just have to trust the process. And remember that in the past, you've had these moments where you felt like nothing was happening, nothing was changing, nothing was growing. But then you looked back in 6 months or 12 months or 3 years or 5 years or whatever and saw the vast amount of evolution that your soul has actually transmuted, right? So this is saying that if it feels like you're not moving forward like you wish, love is reminding you that it is working in your life every single day quietly, and you are encountering it quietly. And a lot of times it's an invitation. It's an invitation to slow down enough to hear its whisper, because the world is so loud, right? Let's take a look at your shadow card. Yeah, I always see this as like, it looks like a domestic room, but the wallpaper's peeled back to reveal it's really a jail cell. But the most important part is this person just has their eyes closed and looks content, like, this is just my life. Her eyes are closed as well, but her eyes are closed in peace. His is closed in resignation, right? So don't feel like you're in a state right now where you've resigned yourself to stagnation, because you haven't. If you're familiar with St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila, 2 mystics, they talk a lot about the dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul is this process where divinity, and or you could see it as your subconscious if you're thinking of it more like that, is working through some greater problems that your conscious mind just cannot handle. And so it blinds you to the work that's being done. And when this happens, it can feel like nothing's happening. And it can kind of occur 2 ways, where one day you just wake up and you're like, oh, this is the answer. I've got it. Because finally what was being worked on in your subconscious trickles up to the surface. Or it can be such a slow bloom that you just wake up one day and you're like, oh, I've actually been doing a lot better for a while. Money. Find a way to abundance. You know, with these 2 cards, I'm feeling like the material world is something that especially holds you back. So maybe if you've got to work a lot of hours, or if you are around people that maybe drain your energy or don't bring out the best version of yourself. And that doesn't mean you're bad or anything, but you know, I've been in relationships before or hung out with people before who didn't directly repress who I was, but through their actions, they would make me feel weird or wrong for expressing myself in my own unique way. And so make sure that when you are in the material world, you're not letting that affect you if possible. It's going to happen, right? Because, you know, you can't go to work every day floating around on a spiritual cloud or you wouldn't get anything done. In Buddhism, they say, what do you do before enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. What do you do after enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. So that's where you have to find this balance between the two. Two of Wands. Look at that, the balance between the two. Judgment. Whoops. This is one of those cards. I should just tape them up probably, but okay. So I feel like you are in a transitional state, but it's like a slow burn transition. And so you're wondering if things are even changing for you. But love is inviting you to this abundance. And I also get like an underlying sense of self-judgment that you're not moving fast enough. And like I said, coming back to your shadow card, you have this huge fear that you're just going to be okay with stagnation when in your heart, you know that you want to grow and expand. And that doesn't even mean, we have this money card, so it could mean that you want to establish success in the worldly realm. But, money is a representation of something. Money is not actually real, right? Money represents labor. Money represents land. Money represents possessions. And, like everything, there's a corrupt side and a way to use it responsibly. The Sun. I think this one's okay, but I'll still just... So I think that once you stop with the judgment and you're able to see these patterns more clearly, you're going to see the progress that you've been making. And you're going to find out that your peace is more like this and less like this. This is what you fear, but this is what's really going on. Look at that. 10 of Cups. Wow. Such abundant, kind, loving energy here. This quiet blossoming, if you are looking for romantic love in your life, this quiet blossoming and healing is going to align you with the right kind of people, ones that don't make you feel like this, ones that make you feel like this. And there's this widespread idea that love is intensity, that love is insanity, that love is conflict, that love is entrapment. But those are all false faces of love. Those are all more reflections of nervous system wounds. And so this kind of love might feel underwhelming at first. But once you're able to regulate your nervous system better, this feels like the trap that it is, and this feels like the peace that it is. It's all because your nervous system or your inner child or whatever, it's looking for a situation to resolve a wound. And therefore, something that feels very explosive is often a situation trying to replay or mimic a childhood or another painful situation from your past and give it a different ending this time. 4 of Pentacles. Yeah, so trying to be conserving and protective of your resources. And let's take a look at this last card first. Look at that, same thing. A bunch of cards that say the same thing. Protective of your resources. Don't spill your cups over for people who aren't the steady, peaceful love that you deserve. Make sure that you're reserving that for people who have a quiet peace about them, that have the steadiness of true love. And it's a really hard thing to do, to transition your idea of love from whatever it was trained as when you were a child and the way that movies have portrayed it. So you've probably seen your whole life this certain kind of love that is really just an attachment wound seeking reassurance, attachment wounds, seeking to replay the story. But really, love is calling you to observe and start practicing gentle, steady love. Wow. Let's take a look at your affirmation card. And look at this. The Sun, the Ten of Cups, such abundance, such love, such peace as you may have never realized possible. Because if you were raised with a dysregulated nervous system, what you think love is versus what true, steady love is are so different. You may not even have a conceptual framework to understand this. I inhale the highest and best vibrations. I inhale all the joys and life's blessings. And look, that is showing up in your cards. Blessings are here for you. This is an illusion. You make the choices in your life. You are free to do what you want, right? Even if it sometimes doesn't feel that way. There's this old saying, it's like, no one else is going to be looking at your life review at the end of your life, right? It's through your eyes, so you're responsible for making sure that it was a good story. Well, alchemists, if this resonated with you, please comment below. I really hope that it helped you. And I really do see that you're close to this transition if you haven't already, gotten part way or all the way through it, this understanding. I will see you next time and continue the great work.